Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show here on New Zealand Sports Radio. Hi, I'm Paul and I'll be your host this evening. And yes, the clock really did snook up on us. Whatever. I lost track of what the time was, folks, basically. And so I had to quickly run, get myself a glass, get myself a beer. Now, was a bit worried about who's going to join me because there's no one logged in. But hey, the one, the only, the Mr. Reliable himself, Stephen Harris, is here. How you doing?
Yeah, only just. I was sort of thinking of taking a rain check until I saw that Boer had no power whatsoever. But you know what? I thought to myself, there's once a week I get to say it's a privilege and a pleasure to be on the TDM, so I get to say it this week.
Absolutely, you do. And look, folks, when I bought these glasses, I'm pretty sure they were sold as glasses, not as vases. Because look, the can goes well inside, and it's way bigger than a can. But hey, it's all good. It means I won't spill my beer, which is a good thing when you've got laptops around the place, especially when you're trying to get one of them unlocked so you can see what the schedule is today. Some of the stuff we're going to run through today. We'll have a quick run through some of the news, folks. Then we'll have a chat about the Trans-Tasman, Moana Pacifica. There's been a whole bunch of stuff come out through the breakdown show on Sky. Don't worry, you don't have to watch it. You can avoid that by going to stuff and reading where stuff basically write an article about what was spoken about in the show. Because hey, they don't all steal everyone's content, just like we're about to do. We'll also talk about the Super Rugby 2021 format, and then at 8:30 we have got a special guest joining us to talk about club rugby, and in particular Manuero Rugby and their centenary celebrations this weekend, which I'll be looking at getting to. Yes, as you say, the reason we've lost Boa is because he's got a power cut. New Zealand, honestly, is a first world country. We don't have any sort of infrastructure issues. We only lost last week. Cornflake couldn't be on and couldn't host the show because he had a power cut. And but that's down in the South Island. We know we have problems down there. But Boa's in Auckland, for crying out loud. Surely he should be able to. He should have power. Stephen, I mean. The financial capital or financial centre of the country, and you can't even turn your lights on. What's going on?
Yeah, probably just living in the wrong part of Auckland. Out here in West Auckland, it doesn't seem to be an issue, but maybe I shouldn't speak so soon. I'm not too sure where Boa resides or what part of the city Boa resides in, but yeah, hopefully he'll be back online reasonably soon, because it would have been wonderful to have his expertise. But I'm super excited about your upcoming guest. From the is it Jez Clark from
that's correct, yep.
Manurewa Rugby Football Club, and of course the centenary this weekend, and of course there was some club footy played over the weekend, so we'll cover off that, but maybe closer to the time when our guest comes on, Paul.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone who has joined us in the live chat. Yes, as Aaron says, maybe Boa hasn't paid his power bill. There is that situation.
Give him a card. Give him a card now.
We want those orange cards. You know, he goes on report. Yeah. He doesn't actually get banned from the show.
Come on report. Yeah, I agree.
So, folks, let's just do it quickly. Say hello to everyone who's joining us live. Don't forget, we come here at 8 p.m. every Tuesday. For those of you watching the recording, you can or listening to the podcast. In the live chat today, we've got a number of people, so great to see you there, folks. Hi, Simon, Nocturnal Rights, Aaron, etc. Great to have you guys along as well. So some of the news then. Dane Cole's re-signing through to 2023. That's got to be a good thing, Steve?
Yeah, I suppose so. Well, probably he's obviously made a clear indication that he doesn't want to go overseas, so maybe family. He's probably put family first, because we all know he could have picked up a large sum of cash if he'd gone offshore. So it's good news for not just himself, but also his family as well, and also for the Hurricanes. So good news for them all round. Although it may not be good news for some of our up and coming hookers that are running around in this competition at the moment, because it probably means that Dane Cole's also, whilst he wants to stay in New Zealand, he probably wants to stay in that All Black jersey as well, Paul.
Look, I think we're all expecting him to sign through to the next Rugby World Cup. I don't think it comes as any big surprise, to be honest with you. In some ways, it's kind of like I didn't realise he hadn't signed through to 2023 already, to be honest. Somebody somewhere must keep a list of all of these. Because apparently, so TJ Perenara Now, there's been rumours linking him with the NRL, and I'll be blunt. My initial response to that was, "Ha, yeah, another one of those. What a load of rubbish." But it's since come out that apparently he's not on a sabbatical in the same way that Bowden Barrett and Brodie Retallick are. He's actually out of contract at the moment. So he's up in Japan without a New Zealand rugby contract, which means that, well, clearly, if he wants to come back and play for the All Blacks, he's got to come back and get another contract with New Zealand Rugby. So, yeah, there could actually be some legs in this one with TJ going to the NRL, Stephen.
Yeah, well, it's definitely hit the headlines in Australia on a lot of the rugby league shows, and I think Brandon Smith, the Melbourne Storm hooker, also mentioned that live, and something like that in confidence. You wouldn't think he'd actually say anything, but to me, it's a story that's growing legs by the day. And listen, if that's the case, why not? Because let's be brutally honest, he's probably not the number one halfback in the country. Aaron Smith is playing the sort of rugby that he was playing probably about 3 or 4 seasons ago. He seems to have returned to form. Brad Weber's playing some great rugby, and then you've got the likes of even though Folau Fakatava is injured at the minute, you've got this younger guys coming through at this time. So maybe he can see the writing on the wall, Paul.
Yeah, maybe he can. I must say, I thought he would stick around for the Rugby World Cup at 2023. Personally, sure, yes, he was getting on a bit, but I think he's younger than Aaron Smith, isn't he? I think Aaron Smith's older than he is. So yeah, wasn't too surprised. Was a bit surprised by this one. Simon Hughes thinks he'll stay in Japan. That at 29, it's becoming harder to adapt to a sport. Look, he's still below. Actually, no, not quite half my age. But he is still way younger than I am. But look, it's adapting between rugby union, rugby league, being the kind of distributor he is. I think he would. I think he could transition in. So look, a lot of people who know the sports better than I do think he could transition quite. Well, maybe not easily, but comfortably. I think the idea is there.
He's skillful enough, Paul. He's got all the skills required, and he is a good defender as well. So defence won't be an issue. We know that he doesn't lack in any sort of confidence. So as a playmaker, yeah. I mean to say, even if you look around on the rugby league horizon, there are not a lot of real top end sort of halves, even in the NRL. They're usually resigned to the very, very best teams.
Yeah, as Jordan says, look, TJ should do what's best for TJ. Wishing them luck whatever he decides. Absolutely agree. But when we're not criticising him, that's all. We just talk about it as being an item and just of interest. And yeah, whichever way he goes, I wish him the best of luck. Absolutely, it's not one of these ones. Not one of these people who go like, burn the jersey. He shouldn't be allowed back into the country. So yes, not that kind of person. So apparently the Roosters don't have the salary cap space for. I don't know. But I'm sure it's one that the boys on the Standoff show tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. will go through, and we'll have a chat about in that one. Because I'll be honest, nocturnal rights comment here. You could be a 9, 13, 7, 6, or even a centre in league. I have no idea what you're saying there, what that even means. It's all gobbledygook to me. So join the Standoff tomorrow evening, where they will talk about where they think he would slot in if he goes, and whether they think from a league point of view whether he will be going. Finally, in the news, then, with Rugby Southland has posted a surplus of $730,000. Wow! I mean, for a club, for a union that I thought was basically broke, that's is impressive. They claimed $200,000 through wage subsidy, which will be part of that, or part of allowing them to make that surplus. Players and staff took cuts, etc. And they've gone down the route of not hiring full-time staff and having contractors come in to do various bits as well. So, What's the music?
Sorry, that was a message on my phone. Sorry.
Look, it's I'll be honest. I don't think that. I think I'd rather they had permanent staff rather than contractors, because I think you keep the IP in house a bit better. Yeah, look, it's good to see that Southland are in the black rather than the red. For people who are kind of like, oh, should you have taken the 200,000? Look, I think I've got no problems with them doing that, but you got to say in some ways, should they be using some government funds to back up to help put up the what's the word I'm looking for, to build up their reserves? A bit of an interesting one, but lots of other companies have kept the wage subsidies, and I'm sure the wage subsidy actually went on salaries rather than to keep people. So no problems with that particularly. Yeah, look, good to see them in the black, and hopefully we'll have a chat with hopefully we'll have a chat with Dale McLeod in the not too distant future to have a talk about how the Stags are going. Hopefully this will help them. They've said they're not going to be putting it into player wages, but it does mean that perhaps they can put some of the structures in place that support the players better there, with, say, coaching or etc. Steve.
Yeah. Listen, I think a lot of work has gone on behind the scenes there, and you can just see, some of those benefits or the fruits of their labour starting to show, even in around. I think when you start getting creditable performances on the field, I think you'll probably find you start winning that support back from your local community. And with Southland, I think that's what we're starting to see, and we're just starting to see some little wins along the way. Players that are putting their hand up. We could talk about Manaki Selby Rickett. He's turning whilst he's left Southland. He's a local boy that's been developed. We're seeing the same again with Ethan de Groot, who's starting to impress us at Super Rugby level. Ray New, who's been a midfielder down there for a couple of seasons that Dale McLeod picked out of Canterbury Club Rugby, is now with the New Zealand Sevens program. And just even watching the way that even watching the way that the Highlanders under 20s performed in this tournament down in Taupo, I was very impressed with the young number 8 out of Southland, Aresi Poliko, who looks a big, powerful number 8 out of Southland Boys High. So one to light up. So when you're doing good things on the field, Paul, and I think you're showing your public and your stakeholders that you're trending in the right direction, I think the rest just takes care of itself.
Yeah, look, I think they've got Dale McLeod in there. They've got the new CEO who came down from Tasman. So look, they're getting those structures in place, or getting people in place who can put the correct structures in place, so you get an organised province, so you can actually have things go in the right direction. Also, look, a hat tip to the Otago Daily Times and Logan Savoy, who is the writer down there, or is he part of the Southland Times now? Anyway, Southland province seems to get provincial rugby seems to get more coverage than any other province in the country, definitely on the stuff page anyway. So great to have someone down there taking interest, actually writing about the Southland. Whether he's
it's a bit of a novel idea, Paul, getting that free publicity.
It is,
real novel.
I'm surprised he hasn't been sacked, actually. In fact, the other guys who did that. And look, and also, I know they have somebody in Hamilton who could write these stories, but he just wants to find the ones that will get national interest and will be clickbaity, and that's the difference. Say Logan Savoy, look, at least writing positive and just nice and proper stories about what's going on, which is great to see. So yeah, hat tip to him. Then, right then, let's get into the actual meat of the show. That's unless you've got any other news, Stephen.
No, not at this stage. Got a bit of club rugby, but I suppose we can leave that for a while, Paul. Or
we'll leave that the second half of the show for the club rugby. So Trans Tasman. How do you see that being being competitive? Do you think the injuries are going to help things? Where do you see the various sides stacking up?
Yeah, well, I suppose it's a case of getting these two competitions that we've got running at the moment over in terms of Super Rugby Aotearoa and this Australian competition, as they all sort of come to their crescendos or various ends. Beg your pardon. So yeah, it's really interesting. One thing we probably shouldn't do with the Australian sides is underestimate them, Paul. Yep. I think there was a huge guest who's got a bit of a power cut tonight. Hugely underestimated the Wallabies last year, and I think the last thing you want to do is sort of underestimate some of these Australian sides as well, especially the Brumbies, because the Brumbies look like a really, really structured sort of team, and with a good forward pick, and we know what the Reds bring to the table. So the other three sides, if I was truly honest, Paul, I think they'll struggle.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the whilst the Tars are improving, I think the Tars, Force, and Rebels are going to struggle and probably be the bottom three teams in the comp. But I think the Brumbies and the Reds will give most, if not all, the sides in New Zealand a run for their money. I would have said that Crusaders were clear above everyone else, but having lost 2 of the last 3 games, and with the injury list they've got, that's I think closed the gap there. Even if I've gone blank. Even if Razor wasn't didn't particularly like my question about having no centres at the moment, and how that might disrupt preparation.
I think Paul, after the way they started the competition, I think a few teams have wised up to the way or the style in which you actually play them, and I think one of the key things is to try and get them to play a lot of rugby out of their own half, even if you have to go a little bit longer, as opposed to putting playing the high kick route and making it a 50-50 contest, because in most cases the Crusaders in the first few rounds of the season were basically winning all those battles in the air, and I think a few teams have basically wised up to their style. Yeah, there's a few injuries that have hit them along the way, and they could quite conceivably have lost these last 3 games, Paul. It's good. Listen, it's great for the competition. Even Crusaders supporters who I work with are telling me it's probably a good thing for the competition. But you definitely wouldn't want to write them off. They'll be gnarly come this Sunday. Don't worry about that.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I just don't think they've got the gap on everyone else that I had before. I was going to place them sort of clear everyone else, and then have the 4 New Zealand sides, or at least along with the Brumbies and the Reds, as being able to beat each other. Nocturnal Rights there saying that Tony Brown says the Highlanders should sweep all the Aussie sides. Let's just see about that one. I mean, Boa has said that the New Zealand side should win 9 times out of 10 because they just play more, hit the ball in hand more, and will especially just run the other teams off their feet. So it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. Simon makes a good point that the Hurricanes are taking the Western Force to Hawke's Bay. So good to see they're taking a game out to the provinces. I think it's a good move for a game that I don't think would get a great crowd at the Cape Tin. Let's be honest. With that one, so I think it's the right thing to do, and the other provinces should look at that as well as about getting it. But I've not heard anything from the other provinces yet about them taking games to the provinces.
I see Aaron just mentions there in his opinion Crusaders are still in front of the other franchises. Gee, Aaron, that must have been hard for you to say, mate. Or even right. Absolutely.
Look, yes, it is. I understand. I still agree that they're at the top there, but I don't think they've got the big gap they used to have ahead of everybody else. It's closed.
Oh, it's not. It's definitely not huge, and it's about the style of tactics that you play with these guys.
Yep. Moving on then. So Moana Pacifica was talked about on the breakdown show on Tuesday evening. I think or Monday evening. Sorry. Today is Tuesday evening. Get my days in order. one of the things we're increasingly seeing is that basically everything goes through, everything that gets released by New Zealand Rugby goes basically through Sky, if they can, through one of their Sky TV shows or whatever, which is, I get it. They're part owners of Sky, and Sky have got the broadcast rights, and but you do kind of wonder at times how much that helps to grow the game. But interesting to hear about the Moana Pacifica eligibility is that they've taken the New Zealand Rugby one and flipped it on its head. Now, what that means, or what they said that means, is that 80% of the players will have to be eligible to play for Tonga or Samoa, and that 20% of the players don't have to be. Now, that equates apparently to 7. Is that right? I've got my number right first. I'm sorry, 8 out of a squad of 38 could be non-Pacifica or Pacific Island nations eligible. Which is interesting, because I thought it was only 2 players that New Zealand Rugby was allowed to have that were overseas, but in Super Rugby sides. But okay, if it's 8, that's fine. Thoughts on that, Stephen? Do you think that's a good mix, or do you think it should be 100%?
It's probably more than I originally expected, to be honest, Paul. So I'm really excited about that. But you know what? After running around on the weekend, well, I wasn't running around, but the sides I was watching were running around, and you know, predominantly a lot of Pacific Island players out of South Auckland, and some good players as well. You know, you had the likes of Paul Tuiamalo, former Northland loose forward, who'd been playing in France, second division rugby in France, and also the skipper Alvasa Faleali, who was in the Auckland would have been Mitre 10 Cup squad back in about 2015. Also come back from France as well. You know, those are the sort of players who I think we actually might see return, Paul, as an opportunity. And that's not to mention the young talent that's running around, because gee, there were some good kids running around. And that's out of one club side, Paul. So listen, I just think it's a fantastic opportunity for Pacific Island players to stay with their roots, knowing that they can lift their level of rugby and still represent their nation of choice.
No, absolutely. And it's and look, there will be some players who are Tongan eligible, born in New Zealand, Tongan heritage, who will play in the Moana Pacifica, get the opportunity at the All Blacks, go play for the All Blacks, leave Moana Pacifica and go play for the other Super Rugby franchises. That's fine, folks. That's going to happen. You can't tell players, if you sign for Moana Pacifica, you can only ever play for Tonga, right? These people, so people are going to have that ability to choose who they want to play for. So it's interesting. I mean, Jordan Clark says that most people thought it was going to be the 6th New Zealand Rugby franchise, basically for New Zealand Rugby to basically get All Blacks from. Yeah, I think that if they did that, then the whole point of the team, the whole flavour that they would bring to Super Rugby would be lost. If you go to nzsportradio.com, you'll see that I've done a video talking about why these 2 Pacific Island teams have been introduced to Super Rugby. And if you go listen to that one, you'll see why New Zealand Rugby couldn't do that, and that it would just destroy the whole purpose of why they're doing this. They won't. We'll have to see. Also, I said you won't get the very top level of Pacifica player back from Europe, but a decent level player will come home. Look, it's going to come down to what the players want to do. Some players may want to come back because Moana Pacifica said that their salaries will be equal to the New Zealand Super Rugby salaries. So look, it's not bad money. Is it great money? No, maybe it's not as great as you can get, but some of them might just prefer to be closer to home and take the money as well, and rather than necessarily and take a bit of a pay cut. Does it mean will they all come back? No, but I think 1 or 2 might.
Boy, I'll tell you what, don't ever underestimate how much Pacific Island talent there is running around, even down in counties. I just basically pulled up a page with regards to Counties A representatives that have represented Manurewa Rugby Football Club. And boy, you go through some of the list here, the likes of Pele Cowley, Howard Silioto, Matt Taliasi, guys, a lot of guys here, Tim Nanai Williams, guys like that who have all, of all Pacific Island heritage, could represent a Pacific Island team. Gus Ledger also from the Manurewa Club, Celeste Moimoy, George Laupepe, guys like that who you would have seen running around for the Chiefs in the past. Those are sort of guys that this Moana Pacifica can tap into, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Simon's right. Look, there needs to be a bit of patience with this team. I mean, there was somebody on the breakdown last night saying that it should be 80% New Zealand, and only 20% Pacific, just to make them competitive, which again totally. It was that person just basically lose their job. They're clearly just there for the clicks. Aaron's made 2 points here that we're going to have a quick chat about. First of all, he says Moana Pacifica should start naming players soon, plus the coaches, etc. Look, they can't start naming players until they've actually got a contract. At the moment, they've got a conditional contract, or until they've actually got a license. Until that becomes permanent, players aren't going to sign. Otherwise, they don't, because until they know there's definitely going to be someone who's going to pay them, why would you sign? So yeah, so
and they've still got to find 5 big ones, haven't they, Paul? That's the other thing. $5 million to get this license up and running.
Now I think they will do. Obviously, otherwise we wouldn't have got this far if they didn't have the chance of doing that. The biggest concern is how it affects the crowd support for the Blues. Yes, the Blues, in fact, all the Super Rugby franchises are not happy about this. Okay, they're not going to come out and say so, but they're not, and the Blues in particular, because yes, this is smack bang on their territory, and they see themselves as the Pacifica team, even though they've never really properly sold that image.
Yeah, Paul. There's enough players running around. For crying out loud, they've got 3 unions that they can pick from, and there is a lot of untapped talent. I mean to say, a lot of it just needs polish. Or opportunity. But as it says, the biggest thing is in fact the crowd support rather than the player availability. And yes, you're right, but that's just the Blues not marketing themselves well. Where is their home ground going to be? The rumor has it's going to be Mount Smart Stadium, but they will take some games to the islands, but Mount Smart will be their main place. So, what is really worrying is a tweet that's come out by Daniel Leo. So his first tweet said, "My 2 cents on PI super teams. Got every faith in Fiji Drua being run well and benefiting Fiji rugby, both Fiji rugby and Fiji. Less so Moana Pacifica, senior Poly, Samoan and Tongan players and island unions contacting me saying they've been kept in the dark as to details doesn't inspire confidence." But followed this up with already 2 New Zealand Rugby board members on Moana's committee, and hearing a New Zealand Rugby Players Association employee being lined up as Moana Director of Rugby. Lots of room for conflict of interest, very little consultation with Samoa and Tonga. Need to make sure Moana doesn't become New Zealand's 6th Super Rugby team. Now, so look, there's the image that New Zealand Rugby and Sky, or through Sky, is giving out. But then there's also this some question marks in the background as to what's going on, because it's just sound like more consultation with those unions needs to be happening, I think. I'm saying that, Paul, they still haven't got that license in place and haven't found the money. So speculation at this time is just speculation, and it's because if you haven't got any information, that's because you haven't got any foundations down just yet. So I guess it'd be a case of wait and see. Sure, there will be some New Zealand Rugby Football Union involvement, and you'd actually hope so. They're the ones giving the license or giving the opportunity. But at the end of the day, I think the real win is the fact here's the Pacific Island side that will have 80% of your players will be from the Pacific Islands. Well, not the Pacific Island, but Pacific Islands heritage, beg your pardon.
Eligible for the Pacific Islands, which is a good thing. So look, still on the whole, still massively positive about this. Are there questions marks? Absolutely, there are, and there are going to be and there probably will be 2 or 3 years in, to be honest. We'll still have question marks. We've got question marks around how the Blues are run and the Chiefs, etc. So yes, someone also mentioned that there would be impact on both the Blues and the Chiefs. Look, I don't think the Chiefs are going to be impacted too much by this on the whole, to be honest. But I think the Blues, crowd-wise, could be absolutely. Look, Aaron makes a point there about the the Samoan and Tongan administrations have had corruption issues in the past, but look, it's so I don't know how, but you think that some would be somewhat they should be consulting with them and working with them, to be honest, if only to say, okay, what players do you have available through your pathways that we might be able to hire for the team, for example. But yeah, who's investing? Sorry, go on, Steve.
It's it's going to take some work. Going to take some work. Don't forget the players that you see running around in Super Rugby at the minute. A lot of them are already contracted, and you can guarantee. And I'm being a bit cynical here. It's probably why you're hearing so many announcements in recent times. You can bet your dollar, your bottom dollar, that a lot of these super franchises are locking up the talent that they have got at their disposal right now. You've also seen an under-20 tournament that was just on the undertaking. There will be some kids there, some Pacific Island kids from across all of those 5 franchises that will probably see Moana Pacifica as an opportunity to progress. And we're talking about those kids that are just outside. But the real key thing for me here will be, will the All Black jersey still be an attraction for those players to go through the New Zealand system?
Absolutely, I think it will be, because at the end of the day, it does pay better. The All Black jersey pays better than the Samoa and Tonga jersey. So look, I think the All Blacks will still get first choice of the New Zealand-born Pacifica players on the whole. So what does Super Rugby, the 2021 format, looks like? What do we want it to look like? Well, look, it's going to be 12 teams, folks. And if you think the old system used to be 16 rounds over 18 weekends plus playoffs, clearly a double round of 22 games will be too much. So I think what we'll see is a single round robin round of 11 games, then going into finals is my guess. But that's my guess. Stephen, your thoughts? What kind of structure we're going to have with 12 teams?
Yeah, hard to know. I'm probably just willing to just sit back and wait at this stage, Paul. I mean to say, for me, let's just hope these teams get their licenses in place. Yep. Let's hope they can get the funding, and then we'll start talking about structure of a competition.
Simon says he thinks it's going to be round robin with the top 6 playoff, something like that wouldn't be surprising, or even top 8. Where most of the teams go through to the finals, wouldn't surprise me at all. So, folks, we're moving into the second half of the show now, which means we're going to start talking club rugby, and I would like to bring in Jezza, who is the head coach of Manuera Rugby, to join us. How you doing, Jezza?
Hey, boys. Thanks for having me. I'm good, thanks. I was soaked from training tonight, so just quickly shot home, had a shower, and jumped onto this. So it's good.
So you play a coach then? If you're soaked?
No, not a player coach, mate. Retired a few years back. So I wish I was still running around, but it's good to be in the wet with the boys, I guess, and getting them prepped for the weekend.
So one of the questions we've been asking as we get around the clubs is about how they coped with COVID, how their numbers are looking, and all that sort of thing. So how did Manuera cope with COVID? Obviously, basically being shut down for most of the year, having a shortened season, not taking the same cash over the bar you would do normally. So I guess finances maybe put under pressure and that kind of thing. So how did you guys cope?
I guess it was trying times, and I guess times we've never sort of been in before. So as a coach, it was probably the most difficult to try and keep a bunch of guys, motivated to be, not knowing when would start, again. So there was no, every time they'd get some feedback around when would start, would be pushed out. So all we could do was be ready and just, I guess it's mental way. So it was a lot of hard work and hard yakka behind the scenes from the boys. So full credit to them they actually came back in better nick after COVID, to be honest. So, they must have put some effort through those tough times. So what we did is
KFC was closed.
Yeah. Well, that's it. The fast food. So, the wives and partners had to, cook real meals, I guess. So, no, it was good. But the hardest thing for us is just trying to work out how do we keep them motivated. So what we did is we put them in some positional groups and just basically made them accountable to their peers. So we had like leaders in each sort of position, like front row, locks, back rowers, inside backs, outside. So basically we had leaders in each position, and basically they looked after their groups, and those groups really, really worked hard. And actually when they could come back together, they started working together as well. So now that was good.
Well done. And look,
sorry.
And now, so it's your 100th year this year.
Yeah, correct.
I'm looking at what you guys have got on this weekend, and it looks like you're putting out 5 teams this weekend. Which I'm looking around other clubs. That's a lot of players you've got running around there. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so we've got Premier men's team, Premier women's side, a Premier reserves, under 21, Division 3, I think it's 5 teams. Yeah, and a Division 3 side. So they're all senior teams, and it's good. We've got a good group, and good depth through the grades. So looking forward to the 4 days ahead. So it's going to be few days off for a few of the boys, so they talk about a few benders going to be happening this weekend. But I guess you look back to the old Manurewa days, and they had some very classy teams back in the early 90s. Pretty much nearly a Steelers forward pack when you had the Errol Brains, you had the Kerry Mahi, you had a lot of players, quality too through those years. So they won a few championships. But we've had to restart and pretty much start again in this sort of professional era. So it's not as as teams aren't as stacked as what they probably were back then. So we've got a good young group coming through. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Jezza, Paul, I'm just going to jump in. Jezza, great to have you on, mate. But I'm a great one for history, and coming from the Waitemata Club, we've got. I'm a little bit envious, mate. Well, I think we've got about 4 All Blacks, although one of those All Blacks is a true great of the game, and Michael Jones.
Michael Jones, yeah.
And I look through the list of All Blacks from Manurewa, and boy, there's some beauties here. Bert Palmer, Bruce McLeod, Michael Knight, of course, Pat Welsh, a real great player in his own right. The late Nicky Allen, who could have been anything. Mark Cooksley and Lilia Masanga in recent times, but also you go through your New Zealand Māori All Blacks. Once again, Pat Welsh, Pat Yates, John Hughes, Mac McCallion as well. Jeepers, Warren McLean, Paul Tuoro, Henry Maxwell, Errol Blaine, Mark Cooksley, Tony Marsh, and Glenn Marsh. But Tony Marsh has always been an interesting one for me as well, Paul. That's a fully French international as well, but boy, something we were talking about. We were talking about Mana Pacifica just before you came on board, and their influence. There's so much talent that comes through these South Auckland clubs. Do you see players that could go on and literally easily, who may miss out on super contracts, step into a Mana Pacifica jersey?
Yeah. I think there is a lot of quality within the South Auckland area. Just to go on, there's a few boys that have been through the club that have gone to top 14. Matt Y, he's gone over to the Pro G2. The boys, and there's a couple of boys gone over to Italy. I'm just kicking myself if those boys had sort of just hung around a little bit longer. They'd really have the opportunity that they're going to get with that Moana Pacifica now, because there's definitely a lot of quality around that are just missing out on Super. We've got a few boys in the Chiefs. We've got a boy in the Blues, Tanielu Talia. We've got Vili Talani. Those boys are on the. They could make themselves available and try and get into those.
You could argue that Manurewa has been supplying players all around the world. I just also see that Sekupu Kefu also played down there, played for Count. People forget that he started his career with yourself at Counties Manukau as well.
Yes, yeah. Sekupu Kefu is actually back in Auckland at the moment, and I'm not sure what's happening. So hopefully he signs with Counties and comes back home to the mighty Manurewa. So, but he's got a few options on the table. So I think he'd be one definitely probably looking around that Moana Pacific as well. So I don't want to speak for him, but he's definitely got some options around.
We heard it first here, Paul. We heard it first.
Breaking news is the first signing for Moana Pacifica will be Sekupu Kepu.
You've also had the likes of Tim Nino Williams play through Manurewa, Ace Tuala. They're playing over in he's playing over in Northampton. With Black Ferns, that you can't forget the ladies. We've got a big contingent of ladies that are going through the Black Ferns. Ari, Leilani Paresi, we've got Hazel Chubik. So there's some real classy ladies as well through the club, and they actually their photos hang above our bar. All the lady internationals, and there's quite a fair few that have been through the club as well.
Cool. So just the ladies, the men internationals don't aren't above the bar as well.
You're on the up. There's like a wall of the men's team, all the men's players that have played all international.
Right.
Bundy Arki played a Rewa as well. Now he's playing for Ireland.
Yep. And potentially the British Norwich Lions this year.
Yep, that's correct. Yep. So there's a guy. All the guys are on one side as well, and also got the internationals all over on our honours board as well at the front of the club.
Cool. I just want to run through what you've got on this weekend. So,
Yes.
folks, on Friday night you got the mix and mingle.
Yep.
From 6 p.m. till midnight. So that looks like it's going to be a late one, which should be good fun down there.
Yep.
No tickets on the door, folks. So if you want to get involved, look on the Manurewa Facebook page, and there'll be contact details there on how to get your tickets.
Yep.
Then on to Saturday, as I say, you've got all those 5 teams in action.
Yep.
Kicking off at 12.
I don't even think we've got enough sheds actually to hold all these teams. Actually, so, we've actually had to take over the league sheds across the park, the Manurewa Marlins. So there's a couple of teams that will have to just dress up before their game and sort of have a little trot across to play at the fields as well. So.
Well,
we've never had this many teams play at one time at the club, so this is a big occasion.
Master going today. So Pakakura are turning up for most of the games.
They've got the biggest rivalry with our club, and they go back a long time as well. So I think they were 100 and don't quote me, but it must be close to 110 plus years. The Papakura club. So I knew they had their centenary a few years back. So they're a prestigious club also. So.
Cool. And except for the and I'm going to say it's wrong now. Pukeko are in there for your Premier Twos.
Yeah. Pukekohe.
Pukekohe, sorry. There you go. So it's being dyslexic and not coming from this part of the world, I find these names a nightmare to say.
That's why you should leave that sort of stuff for me, Paul.
I should.
Yeah.
Paul, I've just got a quick question for Jez, mate. Just looking at your game on Saturday, and after this, we'll probably cover off a lot of the club results from sort of around the sort of Counties Manukau up to Northern region, but boy, tight contest with with Bombay on the weekend, 28-27. Good to get that one across the line.
Yeah. It's been a while since we've sort of won on the hill. So if you've been to Bombay, it's a special place, and it's a hard place to win a footy game at. And they've been the top of the sort of counties comp for a little while now. They've won like 4 or 5 championships over the last 6 years, so they're always there or thereabouts when it matters. So to get a win there, I think the kicker kicked a 58-metre penalty to get us out to that 8-point lead at one stage, and then they scored in the last minute. So it was pretty close. Like, we got the penalty with about 2.5 to go. Drilled it into with the wind assisted, but it was a massive kick. But then they scored again to get within 7. So by the end of the day, you got to play the 80 minutes. But we were stoked to get the win up there.
Oh, let's say the whistle just came at the right time.
Right time.
But I see that keeps you. Karaka's off to a good start with 15 points. Ardmore, Marist, and of course Bombay with that bonus point they picked up just keeps ahead of you. But 2 out of 3 ain't bad, mate.
Yeah, we lost the first game against Ardmore. They got a penalty at the 80th minute, so we went down by 1 point, which was a heartbreaker. But at the end of the day, we rode our wrongs, and we've come right the last couple of weeks. And I'm just looking forward to the occasion this weekend to get the win, and hopefully put an 80-minute performance together.
And folks, if you can't be at the game, it will be streamed live on the Counties Manukau Facebook page. I'm aiming to be at the games to do post-match reaction, post-match interviews. So hopefully we'll be there for that. Just to quickly round off the rest of the things that are going on. You've got your Green Tie Gala dinner on the Saturday night. So folks, semi-formal there if you want to head along to that one. Again, no door sales, so get your tickets early. And then on Sunday, you've got the old boys playing as well. So a stacked weekend of events there. So great to see that you've all that's going on. So check out the Facebook page, folks, if you want to see any of that. But Stephen, let's get into the club results then.
I will. And listen, I'll probably leave the county's results for last, but I've quickly got to mention how much I enjoyed your Wahine last year playing in the Auckland Club final, Manurewa. The Ponsonby girls. That was just an really hearty performance from Manurewa. They had their opportunities, but I'll tell you what, it was probably one of the games of the season to be at. I really enjoyed it. But without further ado, I'll quickly jump into some of these club results. It's really important, and your comments in and around some of the players that come through club rugby makes it really, really important how that the bottom level of this game is, and it's a credit to all the volunteers that rock up week in, week out. But hey, on Saturday, Northland Club Rugby, probably one of the real success stories up north is Ngāti Hene Moerewa UK, who basically are a promoted team, and boy, they're in their second season. Obviously, a very short season last year with COVID, but they had a win 44-24 over Horohoro, the team that's putting down a bit of a line in the sand at the moment. Old Boys Marist 43-17 over Wellsford. Mid-Northern, very strong side, stacked full of Northland representatives at the moment. Will be very hard to beat. 57-15 over last year's champions Waipu, who unfortunately have lost a few players after winning the championship last year. Kamo in a tight one over Hikurangi, who were struggling to get players last weekend, 26-17. And Keri with Sam Knock being released from the Blues, running around for them, beating the Western Sharks 32-29 in Dargaville. So where does that leave us in terms of the table? Old Boys Marist sitting on top with 18 points, Kamo with 18, Mid-Northern with 16, and Ngāti Hene Moerewa UK with a 14 in second place. I'll quickly go down to the North Harbour Club competition from the weekend. Well, the big upset, I had to ring Ben Wiki this morning to find out what went on, mates. You guys have had these big wins, and sometimes when a club team is having big wins, when you do come up against some solid opposition, and that's what they found in Kumu out in West Auckland. They went down by 17 points to 10.
Good recruitment there at Kumu, Stephen.
Yep. Oh, they are. And once again, a lot of talent, as you very well know, out in this West Auckland area. Hey, great result there for Mahurangi with a win over Glenfield 17-5. But listen, that's a good story for Glenfield as well. Former All Black Walter Little coached there a couple of seasons ago, and they haven't had a senior team from what I understand for the last two seasons. So that's a success story in itself. Northcote in a very tight one over North Harbour Marist, 24-20. North Shore, probably another one of the teams to watch in the Harbour competition, 21-5 over Massey. And another game, a much improved performance from East Coast Bays, who have started the season in probably a little bit underdone, but Silverdale too strong, 32-23. In terms of the table, Northcote leading the table on 14 points, North Shore on 13, Takapuna on 11, and Kumu after their win on 9. We head across the bridge to Auckland, and I'm crying about this result. College Rifles 28, Waitemata a donut. University 95, Waitakere City 0. Now a lot of talk about Waitemata and Waitakere merging probably makes a little bit of sense. So watch that with interest. The game that I was at the weekend, Papatoetoe 33, Suburbs 10. Papatoetoe are one of these teams. A lot of Pacific Island boys running around this team, but they've also got a lot of experience as well. Jared Firth is back playing. Now, when you think of Jared played for Counties Manukau, and there was a time there he was one of the better props in Auckland in terms of tight head, but got overlooked. So went to Counties Manukau, ended up in the Chiefs, and then he ended up playing in France at, I think, Pro 2, and I think he might have also ended up at Ashwin as well. And he is a handy footballer, and we talk about certain players who Mana Pacifica might be looking for. Well, as Jazz will know, the game starts in the front row. You ain't got no front row. You ain't got
engine room.
You have not much else. And, that's me being a little bit biased in terms of that. So, good result for Papatoetoe. A team to watch, 33-10. Eden over Ponsonby. And, some people will say this is a bit of an upset, but Eden are a very good side, 20 points to 5. Unfortunately, East Tamaki failed to put a team out. So, Grammar Tech, another team to watch as well. Takuranga 57 over Manukau Rovers 7. Probably just as well. Boa's not on tonight. He'd probably give us more of a rundown on that. And Marist 53 or Tahuhu 14 as we look at the table. Pakuranga College Rifles and Marist unbeaten after but only 2 rounds in the Auckland competition. We'll quickly go down to the counties Manukau competition. We had Karaka.
Sorry, Stephen, that result for Eden, is that their first victory over Ponsonby, I believe?
Ooh,
First ever.
It could be. I'd have to look at last year's results. I know they've had a couple of close games in the past, but it could.
I think they've finally broken the duck. Apparently,
they've finally broken the duck. That could. I tell you what, that competition, is stacking up quite nicely because I think there's probably 3 or 4 contenders. But I just love the way Papatoetoe play. These are some really, really big human beings who actually hold the ball like they're playing like outside backs.
Yes.
And boy, they're a fun watch if you in that area. Get along to watch Papatoetoe.
Yeah.
Boy, wouldn't that be a story if they could come through? But as Ron Williams once said to me, the Gallagher Shield, Steve, has never won in April.
No.
It's won later in the year. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, the Counties Manukau competition, Karaka 32, Pukakoi 13. Big win for Marist, Ardmore Marist, 77 points to 7. Of course, good to see Waiuku get across the line. 19-15, Peter Nock coaching the Waiuku boys. He was telling me a couple of weeks ago he was struggling to get some numbers there, but obviously, he had enough bodies on the field to get the job done. Papakura. And once again, this is a good story. I think it was only about a year or 2 ago. They couldn't buy a trick, Jazz. They were struggling. They were getting some hefty hiding. So basically, what's happening there?
I think with Papakura, you were talking about?
Yeah,
you're talking about the Papakura new coaching. I think they got some new coaches in there. But a good mate of mine, Sione was the previous coach. I actually worked with them. They were struggling for players. The players just sort of fell away. And the new coaching regimes come through, and I think they've got some new numbers come through to the club. So Kerry and Pat Flavel, ex Karaka coach, part of the Karaka setup, and then Kerry Pichu, who's able to be a part of Karaka as well as Ardmore Marist. So
Oh, fantastic! And of course, the result that means the most in your centenary year from last weekend, Manurewa 28, Bombay 27. As we quickly look at the table, and it's obviously the only unbeaten team, or actually two unbeaten teams at the minute, is Karaka, but they've picked up the maximum points with 15. Ardmore Marist sitting on 13 with the 3 wins, picking up 1 bonus points. Bombay on 11, and Manurewa, after 3 rounds, sitting there in 4th place on 10 points. So well done, Jazz. I tell you what, club rugby, you can't beat it, can you, mate?
No.
Well, hey, we're not finished yet. First off, Eden beat Ponsonby back in 2018, 33-31.
Okay.
In one out of the 4 games they played that year. They lost the other 3.
Tell you what, Ponsonby they're kind of like a benchmark club team, aren't they, Jazz? You know, they're just one of those teams that they're always there or thereabouts. You know, somebody told me many years ago, if you're coaching a club team and you've got aspirations to win a title, all the hard work is done in the off season.
Totally.
And you probably find Ponsonby is one of those clubs. They do a lot of work during the off season, and I think you see it with a lot of clubs as well. And when you talk about off season, sorry, Paul, just before you get to those results down in the Thames Valley area, how was the off season for Manurewa?
Yeah, no, we pretty much started in mid-December. We sort of got together and did a little bit of running around before the Christmas break. We put a bit of effort in, and we've got a good couple of strength and conditioning boys that have put the effort in, and one of them being an ex-player, James Rao, previous Marist boy from Auckland. His younger brother's actually playing with us at Manurewa, and he's come through and he's really put the boys through, and they've really worked well through that pre-season. So we had a couple of pre-season games versus Pokaranga and Massey. It was good hit outs early, and we had a few boys playing for that Chiefs 20s that just came through, and they just won that 20s comp down in Topol. So I think we got 4 of them back this weekend. So this is their first game. So they're pretty excited at training tonight. I said, listen, boys, it's your first training back. They've sort of been missing for a little while, so it's good to have everyone on deck.
Yeah, and absolutely, and it's you guys managed to cope with that. The unfortunately, Pyra on here have had to forfeit their first 3 games because of players being away at the National Touch tournaments. Hence, that's why it's 28-0 there. That's not an actual result. That's their forfeiting of the game, unfortunately. There, so you've got to say with these touch tournaments, with that under 20s, all these other demands on club players does stretch club resources some at this sort of time, which is maybe those sort of things should be happening during the Mitre 10 Cup, or sorry, the Bunnings NPC this next year. Anyway, just some thoughts.
I think it's tough though, because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't with that rep rugby stuff. Because I know counties had an early competition. They played with the Chiefs Cup with the Bay of Plenty, Waikato and Taranaki. We had 9-10 missing that through that weekend, and that's a lot of players from our club, to be missing. And we had preseason games. We've also got the Chiefs boys, so there's 14 players missing from a group to play preseason games, and it is tough. But at the end of the day, we want to be springboarding them up to higher honours. So I guess they got to be able to be available to play, all year round. I guess with all the rugby that's going on now. Yeah, sure.
A team like a club like yours with where you've got 3 Prems teams and an under 20 team, senior team, perhaps can cope with that. A Waihi, for example, wouldn't be able to. A Pyro can't be able to. And it's just they just don't have the numbers to cope with that kind of stuff.
And with the touch nationals, I think it was due to COVID, sort of cancelled their first one in March, so they pushed it through to April. I was involved with the Northland under 18s boys. We won the nationals, and we had a lot of 1A rugby boys playing, and they were also going to play in the open men's. But due to first 15 rugby, they were unable to attend. So it just shows you when you push those sorts of events out into rugby season, it's tough.
I was going to say, I actually saw that on that coverage on Māori TV.
Yeah,
Boy, that was an impressive squad. That was down in Rotorua, wasn't it?
No. Sorry, was it Bruce Pullman? Bruce Pullman with the Nationals. But most of our boys all play 1A rugby, so they're rugby boys that actually cross over to play touch as well.
Wow!
So we're pretty blessed, I guess.
So yes, very briefly, it took Thames and Cobras. Thames getting the win there over Mercury 29-21, and Cobras 55-10 over Waihi, who are going to be the two teams to beat in the Thames Valley. Waihi ran out against Whangamata with 22-7 down at half time. Sorry, 22-3 down at half time. Came back to 22-all with just 2 minutes left, and with the last kick of the game, Whangamata beat Waihi at 25-22. So a heartbreak there after coming back. Both sides actually playing better into the wind rather than with the wind, and it was quite a strong wind as well. Blew my camera over at one point, but off its tripod. So interesting there that actually sometimes just by playing ball in hand, playing into the wind, actually you play better than when you're sort of just trying to use the elements and just boot the leather off the ball. So interesting one there. But I say I'll be at most of the Waihi games when I'm not being asked to head up to centenary celebrations at weekends for that one.
Oh, good.
So thank you very much for joining us and having a chat. Steve, any final topics or points?
No, I just something just made me think. I know a couple of teams last year were struggling in the either under 20 or under 21 grades. I was just going to ask Jez if Manurewa have an under 20s or under 21 team at this point.
Yep. The 21s have been going good. Last couple of years they've made they won the final, and due to COVID they couldn't play the last year's final against Padmahoe.
Wow.
But our 21s, they're up and running this weekend against Papakura as well. So they're looking all right. They trained well tonight. They're good numbers. So it's a tough grade, the 21s, because those boys are sort of pretty transient. They come in and out. But with the season starting so late, because this is their first hit out, so they've had a couple of pre-seasons, but they haven't had really everybody on board. But they're all ready for this weekend. There's some good quality boys in there too. So playing Premier footy and playing also in the 21s grade. So there'll be some good talent on show.
Sorry, Paul, just before, and just with regards to the ladies teams, the Manurewa ladies teams after a couple of rounds.
Yeah, I think they beat Rifles 35-0 the first round, first game, and then they lost to Ponsonby on the weekend 30-17, I think. So it was a tough one. But two of their Black Ferns, their 9 and 10, didn't play. So I guess that's a massive loss to your team when your spine's unavailable. But they'll be amped for this weekend. It's a big occasion for them also.
And that Rifles one has got a lot of Black Ferns and Black Fern 7s above their bar. I can tell you in the club rooms having been there. So that's a very good win over College Rifles there. Did your under 21s take part in that the Auckland sort of Super 21s competition that they had towards the end of last year, where they had North, South, East, and West?
We had a couple of players go over and play with the Papatoe boys, I think. Yep. I don't think there was too many, because the hardest thing for us is I think there was 8 or 9 of them played in the counties 20 side, which I was a coach of for the rep season. So that's a lot of boys that sort of aren't available to play in that competition. But I heard counties have got 2 sides in that new comp in that comp this year. There's a counties north and a counties south that are going to come on board the comp. So.
Oh, well, great to hear that comp's continuing, because part of the reason having that comp was the fact that rep rugby was reduced or not happening. So it's great to hear that it's actually going to continue this year as well.
Counties North and Counties South, I believe, that are coming into the comp. So
cool. Well, there you go, folks. Hearing all the rumours about stuff that's going on and hasn't quite been announced yet. Jez, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us, Stephen. A pleasure as always. Thank you everyone who's joined us in the live chat. And don't forget, we'll be back here at 8 p.m. next week, where we'll be talking again the hot topics in rugby and also covering off on club rugby here in New Zealand as well.